My name is Saumitra Bhadauria. I have been selected in Gujarat Judiciary in the year 2021, the notification for which came in 2019. I completed my law from Nirma University. After completing my law, I practiced in High Court and some lower courts for about 2 years or so. After which, slowly I decided and made up my mind to pursue Judiciary as my career objective. And another motivating factor in my life was my maternal grandfather, who retired from Rajasthan Judicial Services and who has always supported and helped me. So that's why I decided to pursue Judiciary. The academy proved to be very useful and a great resource for me, and along with me, my classmates as well. We had very good exceptional teachers. We had visiting faculty as well, which covered the subjects that they specialized in, and we had a lot of very useful tools. Like we had audiovisual sessions. We had a plethora of mock test exams, which provided us with the confidence and helped us to develop the skills that were necessary to actually attempt the exam. So it has definitely been very helpful. I try to devote at least 3 to 4 hours of my time daily to study law as well as Gujarati. The reason being, I also had a full-time job along with my preparations. So at least that much time I had to take out from my day, and on weekends I tried to cover as much as possible. And I generally approach the subjects one at a time, mostly, unless I got overwhelmed with a subject. And at that time, I would try to cover the minor acts, which gave a change of pace to the regular study. For prelims, I had started making my notes from the very beginning only. So I was studying all the major acts that come in the course. I was preparing notes. I was compiling, basically making summaries of case laws and as well as the bare acts. And I was also making notes from the lectures that we had in the MOOC Academy. Things that are not exactly covered in the bare acts, some legal principles, some history, and all the important things. This was the general studies, and specifically related to prelims. After I had completed around, I would say 50 to 70% of my course, I started giving as much mock tests as I could. I can answer this for myself only. So, when I had started my preparation in the early stages, only I realized that it was necessary for me to make notes too, because the course is so wide and the information is so much. Revising them and revisiting the things that you've already studied, it made my life very, very much easier, because I had started to prepare notes from an early stage. In fact, even before joining the MOOC Academy, I had made notes of all the major acts. The notes included basically all the important sections, what the sections contained, including all the keywords and phrases which were necessary to explain that section. Along with it, any landmark judgments that I came across, any legal principles, any other information, amendments, and everything I had integrated into my notes. And one of the most important benefits of making notes is that, by the end of my making notes endeavor, I was able to revise all and every subject within 1 or 2 days, which I had compiled, and it contained information from multiple sources, which I don't think would have been possible if I had not made notes. I think the notes definitely helped that I had made, since they had all the landmark judgments and everything regarding all of the important acts. But relating to main specifically, I think one of the most important things that I had to work on was firstly understanding the question exactly, and not answering any irrelevant information or wasting my time, or wasting the checkers time. So the answers had to be well formatted, and had to be very specific and exact. And additionally, another very important skill that I had learned previously also, but which came very helpful in this exam as well, was time management. Because like the main question paper is not that hard, it's not that technical, it's pretty theoretical. It was, at least in my time. But the most important and hard part was managing the time, since there was so much to write, and so I had to I had divided the marks along with the total duration of the paper runtime. So at every moment I knew whether I was behind or I was ahead, and by how much. So management of time is, I think, very, very important along with your knowledge, because you don't want to miss any of the questions that you know the answers to, because you have wasted 10 minutes thinking about a case law that you cannot remember, or section. So my advice would be just to skip if you cannot remember for more than a minute, and come back to it if you have finished the rest of the paper. The Gujarati language paper was definitely the biggest challenge that I had in clearing this exam, since I had appeared for this exam one more time before, as I've mentioned, and in that I definitely could not clear my Gujarati mains paper. So this time I knew that I had to prepare it very, very much more seriously, and since I'm from Rajasthan, and the level of Gujarati that is required, it supersedes the normal casual Gujarati that is spoken informally, definitely, since we are preparing for a legal purpose. So the judgments and the orders and the acts, the language that they use is very much more formal and professional, and contains very much difficult words. So I had to prepare almost my own kind of a dictionary, legal dictionary, which I had prepared while going through Gujarati judgments and Gujarati other question papers. So it was definitely hard, and I would definitely advise not to take it lightly, which many of the students do, as I had taken the first time. So, but it was not, it's not obviously unclearable, but yeah, specific dedicated time is required for Gujarati as well. I think the interview was not that hard as compared to as I said, the hardest part was the Gujarati language paper. But the process, the day the interview is held, and it is very, you get very anxious, and it's a very stressful day, since we were called early in the morning, and we were waiting for all the document verification, and everything happens that day only. And the interview began by my turn came at around afternoon, I guess. So the interview lasted around 15 to 20 minutes, during which there were 3 judges heading that interview, and I was asked some personal questions like, what is your name, where have you done your law from. The judges had my summary, my personal data, so they knew that I was not from Gujarat, so they had some questions about that, like why I came to Gujarat, and why I am appearing for judicial exams in Gujarat, to which I had my reasons which I gave, and after which they did ask some legal questions as well, but they were not that technical. They were just trying to see how I would handle myself in a kind of stressful situation, and whether I am able to express myself clearly or not. So those were, I think, the primary objectives behind those legal questions. But yeah, they were asked, some of them, and since I am from out of Gujarat, they also had a Gujarati newspaper ready, which they handed me, and I had to read a couple of lines from that. Yeah, it was otherwise it was very nice. They were very soft and gentle. They were not trying to intimidate me or anything. So it went quite well. I think one of the most important things that I can say about mains paper is, firstly, being very direct and as concise as possible, since the time is limited. Every information and everything that you write needs to directly increase your marks. So firstly, understanding the question, what is being asked. In Gujarat Judiciary, they don't have very ambiguous questions, they are very direct. So unless you go on a tangent and write irrelevant information, it should be fine. You should structure your answer well. You should use a highlighter to highlight important parts of your answer, such as principles of law, the relevant provisions, the landmark judgments and everything. You should definitely highlight them. It makes the checkers day easier. When I began my studies, I began with major acts only, the specifically IPC, CRPC, the criminal side, and minor acts I had left some of them for later stages. My strategy generally was that I would focus my main time on major acts only, since I had solved so many previous years papers of Gujarat, question papers from other state judicial services, mock papers, so I knew which parts of the major as well as the minor acts were more likely to come, which ones can be completely ignored. But like I still went through them at least once, so I had an idea as to how the relevant provisions relate to one another. And when continuously studying major acts, when I needed a change of pace, I did pick up some minor acts, so that was helpful because it helps keeps the study process feel more fresh, I guess. And some minor acts I did not do as thoroughly as I should have, but at the end it was fine because we have options to like while attempting question paper, we have options which question to give the answer to. So you can be a little bit more lenient with the minor acts, but I would advise that you should at least go through them once, so like you are not blindsided completely by a question that you do not understand. Discipline over everything. I believe that has helped me the most, because I was not before preparing for this exam, I was not as disciplined with my life and my schedule as one should in general. But like to clear this exam, you have to have very strict discipline. You have to clearly mark out your short-term as well as long-term goals and make detailed plans, and then you must have the discipline to stick to that plan. It is fine to not meet your targets every day, but if you are missing your targets consistently, then rest assured it will be very hard to clear the exam. It is fine to take leisurely time. I used to take breaks regularly because it does not like help yourself as well. If you are continuously trying to study for 7 hours, 8 hours, you have to take breaks after every couple of hours. But yeah, that's the discipline thing has definitely helped me the most. For attempting the mains essay type answers, I think firstly you should read the question very carefully, what the intention is, what the type of content is required for that, and after that I generally used to take 1 or 2 minutes depending on the weightage of the marks of the question, and just map out my answer in my mind, and sometimes I've even mapped out on paper, on rough paper as well. I used to write like the main points or main topics that I would cover in each paragraph and such, and after that I would start writing the actual answer and keep that mental map in my mind so that there is a good flow in my answer. I do not miss any crucial points that I have thought of, and I can structure my answer well, and it feels good to read and well thought out. They prove very helpful for me, and I think there is no reason not to use them. It's a great resource. You can either place yourself in a situation when you try to solve them in a 2 hours in an exam setting, or you can use them just for study material, like to figure out what things have been asked and what important things can come in future, and you can try practice writing answers to them. There is no reason not to make use of them, I believe, and they definitely will be helpful for anyone attempting this exam. I personally did not dedicate too much time preparing those things since they only come in pre, and while giving mock question papers, which I gave a lot of, I saw that I was performing satisfactorily in those areas. So I would not be the best person to answer how to prepare for them because I did not. But I would say going through the previous year's mock papers exam here also proved to be be very useful so that you can gauge how much you are lacking and in which things you are lacking. This was the part that I prepared at the very last. I was not as proactive for preparing this part of the examination, but this was covered very thoroughly and very nicely by our academy, and so that it would be very useful. We had visiting faculty for this as well, which came in and explained to us in great detail, like what parts of order are we supposed to write, what things should we include and what things we should exclude, and all those things. And we had a couple of practice sessions as well, so that proved to be very useful. But aside from that, I went through a couple of court orders and judgments which I found online and which were shared through WhatsApp. So that's the level of preparation that I had, and it was satisfactory, I believe.